And if I have friends where I'm cool with saying literally just about anything to them, then I'm going to continue to use it.
Just so you guys know, Mark does not use the N-word at home. He does not use it with friends. Just because I know, like...
Nsima's threatened my life a couple times.
I got us donuts. Those are so bad for you. Oh no, are they moldy? I mean, are they poisoned? Are you allergic? No, I'm just saying. You're judging my food choices based on a false standard of health again, aren't you? Guilty.
Food connected to self-worth. No. Food connected to health is the thing, though.
In our society, today and forever, since the beginning of time, we know that human beings shouldn't be fat. Nutrition is a pathway to improving every single thing that you do. Every relationship, all your business handlings, every single thing that you do. And yes, you can take it too far the other way and not eat enough and stuff like that. But if you are getting in proper nutrition, you are allowing yourself to express at your highest level of output every single day.
I don't know. I feel like every time I go to the grocery store, though, all the root beer zeros are gone. All the Sprite zeros are gone. And then like all the full sugar ones they're jam packed. So I don't know if it's a supply demand thing, or like inventory type thing, but I don't know. It seems like there is at least more awareness these days, though.
Yeah, that's a nice shift. You chose to eat something slightly off plan. You chose to eat something that you had a craving towards, which is great because now hopefully you got the craving out of you. Now it's time to just recalibrate and get right back on that plan again.
The Doritos is the same as the apple, right? For a period of time, it has to just be the fucking apple. You guys fucking heat today, Mark.
Yeah.
This subject is really like close to my heart. Like I get fired up about this kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah. Power Project family, how's it going? Now, we've partnered with an amazing brand, Bubs Naturals. We actually have some of the products on the table. Their MCT oil powder, their collagen protein, and this they're apple cider vinegar gummies, okay? One thing I want to let you guys know real quick is that the Bubs products, number one, they mix super well. So I've had different MCT oils, and I've talked to people who've used MCT oil and mentioned to the copy, and it doesn't mix well. Well, their MCT oil is amazing on coffee in the morning just on its own, but their collagen protein, and collagen is great for joint health, hair, skin, nails, all that stuff, that also mixes just so well into coffee and everything. That's one of the crazy things. But secondly, these freaking apple cider vinegar gummies, I don't ever supplement apple cider vinegar, but they put them in gummies, which is great. 2 per serving. We have literally eaten one of these full things. Andrew and I have split this. And Mark has to be so careful. Like, we give him 2 and we take it away because it tastes so good, but it's actually really good for you. So Andrew, tell them how to get it.
Yes, guys, seriously, have just the recommended dosage. Just have 2 of those gummies. Don't have 2 full bottles the way we do. Head over to bubsnaturals.com and at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject to save 20% off your entire order. And what's really cool about Bubs Naturals is they actually donate 10% of all their profits to various charities, starting with the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation. Again, bubsnaturals.com, promo code PowerProject to save 20% off. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes. Yeah.
Thank you, Jesus.
Oh. Anyway, yeah, we're rolling.
What was that?
I heard something.
What's that, Coons?
Oh, God. Okay. All right. Well, here we go. So I'm drinking and it's watermelon.
Perfect.
Monster Energy. These are delicious.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I hadn't one of these in a long time. And I was like, man, I was like, because we were talking about how grandparents or just older people in general, just older people say things that are racist because of where they grew up. It wasn't necessarily, or maybe it was just accepted. And
look up that phrase, by the way.
What does it mean? I'm gonna.
The fuck does that
One
mean?
thing that I remember someone saying was like, oh, I haven't had one of those in a coon's age. And I was like, I don't think we can say that.
I had one of those in a coon's age.
And I didn't want to say that on air, but Nsima was like, no, like, let's talk about that. That's silly. So I'm gonna Google it. And
well, there's things that to be more clear that we should have never said.
Yeah.
However, it was a little more accepted, I guess, that people said certain things. But look, man, behind closed doors, Mexican people are going to talk about white people. White people are going to talk about Mexican people. White people are going to talk about black people. Black people are going to talk about
white people.
Right?
Dog, you know, I look at
We all think each other is ridiculous, and we're all right.
You know what's funny though? I mean, man, when I look at, you know, it's just sometimes the shit that older white people say. Sometimes I'm just like, all right, it was different. I'm not going to assume anything of them because they grew up at a different time. You know, like they got to catch up. Yes, and not everything they say is okay. But like, if you're 60, 70, and you say, oh, it's the blacks, well, I'm just gonna let it go over my head. I'm gonna act like you didn't say anything. That's just how I look at it, man. It was a different time for some of these folks. I can't assume. All I can go about is how they treat me as we're interacting, and we'll go based off of that. But just gotta have some grace with these old people.
People are weird too, because if you mention a certain person, they're like, "Well, I'm not talking about him."
Yeah.
You know, it's like you said black people, and then I mentioned 5 black people, and you're cool with them. So what you're talking about doesn't fucking make any sense.
Yeah,
like they
I
don't.
have black friends.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. Then why are you talking shit?
It's like my mom. She's 63, 64, but when she was when she was working, she would sometimes say, and by the way, she's from Nigeria, so she's a foreigner. She'd say, I met this woman. I'm pretty sure she's Chinese. I'm like, not every Asian person is Chinese. They might be the one you know the most, but she could have been Korean. She could have been Vietnamese. It's not because my mom is whatever racist or whatever. It's just it's a foreign thing. So sometimes it's a foreign thing. Sometimes it's an old white thing.
We were trying to
Coon's age.
I was trying to describe something to some friends of ours when we traveled to Italy.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, some of the tourists there, they were really rude. And like, I was like, I told Quinn at a certain point, I'm like, you got to kind of lower your shoulder. Like, you got to stand your ground because like these people are coming at us hard. And our friend Jinder, who's Chinese, she's like, it's okay to say it. She's like, it was the Chinese people, right? She's like, we had a lot of cameras, right? And I was like, what you said. She's like,
that's so funny.
She just said, like, she's like, where we're from, typically, if you don't fucking fight for position, you don't get on the transportation, or you don't get into the school, or you don't get into, because a lot of times there's a lot of people congested in one spot, and that's kind of the way they do shit. So they literally are elbowing you as you're trying to like something like walk through the Vatican or something like that.
Yeah.
You're trying to like catch a peek of something, and you're getting like elbowed in the ribs.
Yeah, because like if we get, I don't know, if we catch.
Say, what's going on down there? What's all that racket?
What I was going to say, like if we're walking down the street and somebody elbows us in the ribs, it's just like, it's an event. It's like, what the fuck is your problem?
Right.
But in countries where you are like shoulder to shoulder everywhere you fucking go, like you're kind of used to it. You're just like, oh, this is just Tuesday. I got to get to the train or whatever it is, because like what is it, like you're invading my bubble or whatever. It's
right,
like
right.
Their bubble is just like their skin, you know, like that's all
it's
they
a
got.
lot, a lot closer than what we're used to.
Yeah, so it's weird. It's jarring for us.
What are some things that you guys
Americans
hear that you guys are like, that, probably shouldn't say that anymore? Have you guys heard anything recently? I'm just curious.
There's certain things that, like, you know, over the years that I'm just like, well, if that is offensive to people, then I just won't use it.
Oh, like what? Like what?
There's certain gay things and things like that. I mean, like I grew up where like my brothers always told me everything was gay. And soccer was gay. This was gay. That was gay.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a derogatory way. And that's just what I grew up with. And that's my experience growing up on the East Coast. And I don't know, maybe some other people had a similar experience. I've heard Joe Rogan and some other people talk about it in that way. And I'm just like, yeah, if that's hurtful and derogatory, then I certainly won't use it publicly. And if I have friends where I'm cool with saying literally just about anything to them, then I'm going to continue to use it. If
Just so you guys know, Mark does not use the N word at home, and he does not use it with friends. Just because I know, like,
Nsima's threatened my life a couple times. That's the only reason. Otherwise, I'd be using it all the time.
God damn. Yeah, I feel you.
No, I mean, honestly, like I don't want to fucking hurt any. Like I seriously don't want to hurt people. Like I just don't.
Yeah.
Like that's not part of this show and part of like Instagramming and shit. Yeah, I throw some flames out there here and there, and you get to be you fight with people a little bit, argue with people a little bit, but like I don't want to fucking hurt anybody. So if something I say, and just getting closer with people from different walks of life, that's been really helpful. And it's just like, I'm not going to fucking talk that way anymore. It's just easy for me. It's easy for me to make that change. And if what I was doing before somebody thought was stupid and hurtful, then I'm moving on and I'm trying to improve and I'm trying to get better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can't think of anything other than, like what Mark said, like, in junior high school, like, oh, that's gay. It's like, what's gay? It's like, I got homework today.
On that note, but
like it wasn't actually.
Yeah. Don't lose that thought. But I just remembered when I was looking at you, I'm like, what kind of shit did we say in high school? Wetback.
Yeah.
That was one that was like wetback.
It mattered where it came from though.
Yeah. There was that. There was sometimes black kids like call it Indian kid sand.
Yo, yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
That was the sand, yeah. So, but it was all in jest. It was all jokes, right? But
hopefully.
Yeah, shit was jokes. No one was being like real whatever about it. But yeah, it is interesting how language changes. And one thing about like saying like, oh, that's gay. What's interesting? I hear people who are gay, I hear them using it. It's like that's the kind of thing where it's like it's okay for the people in the group to use it, but if you're not in the club, then keep it out your mouth. That's kind of how that is. You know what I mean?
How gay do you have to be in order to use the word gay freely?
As like a joke, man, I don't know, man.
Like we're pretty close.
We are close. We say some sus shit on this podcast. I feel like we should get a gay pass, but I mean,
that'd be nice.
I'm not even gonna risk it. I don't want to risk it.
We're just joking, people.
I really don't want to risk
stupid.
it. Yeah, man.
But yeah, that and then the other term that would be for trans people, which also happens to be a car part.
Ooh.
I didn't know that was offensive, and once I learned, I was just like, hey, I'm not gonna like. It's hard for me, period, just to like keep track of stuff. But like that was one that slipped way under my radar.
Dog, if you watch a lot of old 90s TV shows, because like me and my girl, there was a point she was watching a little bit of Sex in the City. And as I was watching, I'm like, damn, like they really like a lot of these old shows when it comes to people who are trans, they go hard. They go hard. It's usually a black person who's like super buff with like hair, and they just like that fucking tranny. It's just like, whoa. This was cool in the 90s. Now you get canceled.
90s were different.
Times change. But let me just give y'all a quick tip, because for some of the older individuals, when you're talking about certain ethnicities, don't be like the blacks. Just change that one. like let's start there. Don't say the blacks. Just say you say black people or Mexican people,
black folk,
the Mexicans. Yeah, so that little shift makes a difference.
Can choose your words in order of like threat that you think it would be if you actually said. No, I'm just kidding.
That's true. Imagine there's
not
a guy
going near
list.
it. Yeah, I got my ass kicked many times over for that one,
dude. That's a really cool rule. Imagine that the person you're talking about is right next to you. That'll let you know if you should say it or not.
That's what I tell people who are like have a hard time with road rage. I'm just like, oh, that person that cut you off or whatever, and you're honking, you're flipping them off. I'm like, imagine wherever you're going, they're going to park next to you and get out at the same time.
And the guy's going to be fucking jacked.
He's going to look like Nsima, no jujitsu, and then what are you going to say then?
Right.
It's like, you ain't going to say shit. But you have this fancy metal box covering you. You feel safe.
How does a white guy tell a racist joke? You guys know that one?
I don't. Let's hear it.
Like this. checks the surroundings quite well, and then leans in and says whatever.
Yes.
Very clearly, but quietly.
Oh,
That's like one of my favorite jokes.
Dude.
That's a good one.
I mean, it's not true.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not true.
When Louis C.K. before all this shit, he was just like, man, being white's great. It's going to end eventually though, right? Like he was talking about like, we're on a good streak. You got to figure it's going to come to an end. It's just,
Oh man.
It's like on its way out at some point.
Yeah, man. White dudes. People hate white dudes these days. It's so tough for them. Actually, I feel kind of sorry for y'all.
Oh, God.
Y'all gotta be so careful.
I think they're okay. They're doing just fine.
I mean, yeah. Overall, they're good, but they got to be a bit more careful than everybody else. They're getting some hate.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
So what's this clip we got?
Yeah. What part do you guys want to play?
Yeah, we got this clip that popped up. My brother sent it to me. My brother's actually going to be talking about it on his show with our boy Russell. I think the name of my brother's show is like the Chris Bell Show or something.
It is.
right?
Yeah.
It is the Chris Bell Show.
Yeah, so you could check out some of the commentary that they're going to have on this subject because I believe they're going to talk about it as well. But I was like, we could pirate this too, and we can steal some good content.
So I'm going to play the part a little bit just before they go over the TikTok stuff, just because I think that was like the main part, right?
And Nsima, you said you communicated with this guy a little bit before, and he's lost some weight and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. Cigar. He's been listening to the show. He digs this stuff. But yeah, he's had a transformation himself over the years. But he's big into fitness stuff now.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah, he's a really cool dude.
Shout out to Cigar.
And this show, Breaking Points, guys. Breaking Points, if you haven't heard of it, it's an amazing show. He's a conservative, she's a liberal. And it's a great show if you want to be able to get a good understanding on how both viewpoints see certain political ideas rather than just hearing conservatives or just hearing liberals. Whoa.
See, yeah, imagine when you get close.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
If you speak into the top part, it sounds much better.
Yeah, that's way better.
Yeah. Okay. Is it so? Sorry. Is this just is it on the internet or is it on TV?
It's on the internet. This is on the internet. They have a great set.
Trying to get my dad to watch something like this.
Just put it right
He's
in front
very
of him.
one-sided. So anyway, here we go.
But not
So-
good for you.
With that knowledge now watch this video and see how much of an op that it is.
I got us donuts. Those are so bad for you. Oh no, are they moldy? I mean, are they poisoned? Are you allergic? No, I'm just saying. You're judging my food choices based on a false standard of health again, aren't you? Guilty.
Diet culture, fat phobia, and systems of oppression have created false hierarchies of food, and it shows up everywhere.
For instance, harmful thought patterns like earning food through exercising, or that dessert is the reward for the punishment of eating vegetables.
Remember that you do not need to earn food.
We are all incorrectly taught from a young age that our size, and therefore the foods that we eat, are markers of our self-worth. Moralizing food can lead to harmful relationships with food and disordered eating.
Instead of focusing on good and bad choices, try to approach food with neutrality in mind.
The only foods that are bad for you are foods that contain allergens, poisons, and contaminants.
Let's
Or
pause it for a
food that
minute
is
here.
spoiled.
Everybody is entitled to their own interpretation of how they grew up. But I kind of wonder what this girl is talking about when she said, from a young age, we're taught that our food is connected to our self-worth.
Yes.
Where did she get that from? You know, hopefully she's not in a fucking shit environment where somebody is telling her that she's fat or something like that, or trying to cut her down in some way. That is not like I would say that's an abnormal. I would say that's an abnormal upbringing. I don't think that most parents normally do that. So I don't think our society, that could be her interpretation, but it's probably her interpretation because she's heavy. I think that's her interpretation. Yeah, because she's heavy. That's not necessarily that's not necessarily like a fact across the board that we're attaching our food to our self-worth. What do you guys think?
I don't even think she was being sneaky, but she was that like if somebody can just listen to this whole video clip and if they agree with it, they'll be like, yeah, this is great. But yeah, food connected to self-worth. No, food connected to health is the thing though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it can help your health or it can make your health kind of screwed up.
Yeah. So that right there, I don't think that's the general consensus when it comes to the fat acceptance movements or the healthy at every size movement, the self-worth thing is talked about. But the thing is like when you start talking about facts, the facts is that certain foods aren't good for your health. That's facts.
And you can put them in a category as being bad. They're like offensive to the metabolism. They're going to cause a lot of problems.
Especially if you overeat them, which most people don't have the self-control.
And that's where we can run into some self-worth issues would be if you did end up gaining a lot of weight, then maybe society would be cruel to you. And then maybe you would have issues with your self-worth. But that'd still be your own interpretation, which would be hard to interpret things any other way if someone's calling you fat. So I can understand her viewpoint from there. But you have to eat the shitty foods, the foods that are quote unquote bad for you, in order to get yourself into this self-loathing place in the first place, in my opinion.
Can we rewind it just a bit so I want to hear exactly what you said, because I don't want to.
Yeah. And then so like the only thing that I can really think of as far as like self-worth, because like I grew up in a nice house and stuff, but like, or nice household. And the only thing was like, oh, look at your cousin so-and-so. Like they ate all their food. Like, how come you're not eating yours? So like that, it was, you got props if you ate your whole plate, like it was encouraged. Wasn't sure if that's totally different, but that's the only thing where I was just like, oh, I'm not as good as him because I didn't eat all my food. And that, it's kind of weird feeling, but let me rewind it a little bit.
Neutrality in mind.
The only foods that are bad for you are foods that contain
further back, right?
A bit further back to
moralizing fat.
Here we go.
To earn food.
We are all incorrectly taught from a young age that our size, and therefore the foods that we eat, are markers of our self-worth. Moralizing food can lead to harmful.
Okay, so
I wish they used a different filter on the side.
See, so she said size and therefore our food. But if we just kind of take out the food thing, I think the big thing is like the size and self-worth thing for a lot of people with their perspective makes sense, because a lot of people who are bigger, well, they could be made fun of for their size or whatever, that affects their self-worth. But your size, if we're looking again factually, can be a marker for your long-term health. That is just true. There's no way about it. And you can do everything to, I don't know, get tests or see if you're healthy, but it's self-worth is separate. Health, that is a marker. So you got to be careful with that. It's a very colorful language to try to, talk about this topic.
At the root of it, we're animals, and we recognize when somebody has something different than we have. I walked by a woman yesterday. She was missing part of her arm. She's missing the lower part of her arm. Yeah. I didn't mean to look, but I'm a fucking idiot. I do it. I was not trying to stare or embarrass or anything. It's an identification thing. You just see it. You're like, oh, wow, okay, that's different, right?
Yep.
In our society today and forever, since the beginning of time, we know that human beings shouldn't be fat. In the animal kingdom, there's not a fat lion. There's elephants that have fat on them, but all the elephants have a similar amount of fat on them. One's not necessarily fatter than the other. Human beings are animals in a particular way at the root of our basis. We are not designed to be obese. We're not designed to be, I'm not trying to be callous. I'm just talking about facts. I'm talking about, well, I guess what I would perceive as facts. Maybe somebody else can have conjecture towards it and I'd be fine with that. But I think that it registers in your brain that somebody is oversized when they're excessively overweight. You see it. You hear little kids will say, that person's fat. They're like 5. Like they don't really know, but they know something's up. They know something's different.
Yeah.
Somebody's a lot bigger than they should be. That person in our society, from what I understand, even a long time ago, people that were heavy weren't as trustworthy. They were like, that person's eating all the food. Like clearly, like how did they get that big? we have to save this food for everybody.
Goddamn, bro.
We got 5, 6, 7 people. We got 8. I'm not even high. We got 8 people to feed. Why is this one so big? Right?
Man, someone's gonna just clip this shit and be like,
yeah.
Well, I'm hoping we do it. So.
Yeah.
This was really good.
Go for it, because I want to help more people that are heavy. I really do. My mom died from being obese, and I've seen it firsthand, and it fucking sucks. But my mother knew the whole time. She knew that that was no way to live. She just couldn't control it. She had traumas from when she was a kid. She dealt with it through food. That wasn't a great way to mitigate her stress. It made things more stressful and made things hurt worse.
Yeah.
Nutrition is a pathway to improving every single thing that you do. Every relationship, all your business handlings, every single thing that you do. And yes, you can take it too far the other way and not eat enough and stuff like that. But if you are getting in proper nutrition, you are allowing yourself to express at your highest level of output every single day. It doesn't matter if you're Tom Segura. It doesn't matter if you're The Rock, the president, Joe Rogan, whoever. Everybody can benefit from eating in the best possible way that they can. So some of these things where people are talking about like there's not really a good food and a bad food, it kind of confuses things, I think. I don't think there's any reason why we have to look down on somebody eating an Oreo or somebody eating potato chips or anything like that. We just have to recognize those are offshoot foods. That's not real food.
Let's be clear.
Not nutrition.
Sometimes we may eat those things, but we're very, like, number one, we don't eat those things in excess because you understand exactly what's going to happen if you overdo it on the donuts, if you overdo it on the pizza, if that just becomes a habit, right? But we also understand this food right here is not as good as some real food. It's not as good as steak. It's not as good as eggs. It's not as good as all these things that we habitually eat. That is just the truth.
A lot of people are ending up in a gluttonous, addicted behavior. And there's a lot of people that look down upon people that are drug addicts. And they're like, I don't want to be around a drug addict. If you've ever had experience with a drug addict, again, I have a dead brother from drugs. I have many friends that have died from drugs. They fucking suck. They're not trustworthy. They're just not, because they're addicted. They'll do anything to lie and to cheat and to kind of get around. The same thing happens a lot of times when someone's obese. They're going to lie about their diet. They're going to lie about their nutrition. It happens a lot more than you would think. So a lot of people that are heavy, they're in these compromising positions. They're more addicted than they want to admit. They're more addicted than we even understand. And I don't think that people should disassociate from them. They need help, but they need help the same way that a drug addicted person needs help. And probably even more so since food is so readily available and you have to consume food in order to live.
I want to also say this. It should be assumed, but as we talk about this, if you are someone who is heavier or you're obese or whatever, understand that no one is saying that you are worth less. No one is saying that you don't have intelligence. No one is trying to take down your self-worth or saying that you're not as equal as everybody else. But it cannot be ignored that is a health risk.
There's an issue.
There's an issue, especially as you get older. You might be young and you might be feeling great. And right now you might be like, my blood work and all my shit's fine. But Mark, you talked about this before. As your mom got older, joints degenerated. We just had Russell on the show that talked about this too, our boy Russell buddy. As he got older, his joints wasn't working the same. He couldn't walk the same. Everything just started to get worse. And now he's making progress. But again, with all these things,
and we're grateful that he's able to make that progress, because we could be in a much worse position with him. He weighs over 450 pounds. We could be in a really compromising position where we're trying to figure out how do we get exercise for Russell. And we were close to that. He had a lot of issues with his feet at the beginning, but now he's starting to feel better and better. And we got him headed in the right direction. But he caught it in the nick of time, and he came to my brother, and he came to me, and he came for help, and he came into super training. He took those steps in here. And a lot of other people need to take those steps, and they need to just say, like, I'm fucking addicted, man. I have an issue. Well, even if you don't want to call it addiction, there's an issue at hand. You had to admit at some point that you were addicted to pornography. Oh, yeah. Who knows, like, how much that could have fucking ruined your life, you know? We don't know where these things can take us and what dark paths they can kind of lead us down. But you have to, at some point, either get help. You got to take steps to, you mentioned video games too. You're like, I'm deleting my profile.
It's hard.
R.I.P.
But you had a good mother that was around that put you into sports and put you into lifting. You said just enough other stuff so you felt good enough about yourself where you're like, I don't want this life of just being this video game playing whacking off guy.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to be able to do some other things with my life, so I'm just going to fucking get rid of it. A lot of people fall in a little too deep and they can't get out.
That's an amazing other
guy.
persona that you need to create for like reels and stuff.
Yeah.
Like at video game playing
just
whack off
semen
guy.
crust on my fucking fingers and shit.
Keyboard and everything.
Yeah.
Hey, if anybody that hears this, which they will only hear the clips that probably come from this that are mean, but I'll help anybody. Just fucking DM me. I will try to search through those DMs as much as possible. I will help people for free. It's something that I've been doing for a long time. Super Training Gym is free. You can come here. 855 Riverside Parkway, Suite 10. West Sacramento, California. The gym is open from 9 to 1 o'clock every Saturday, Sunday. You're more than welcome to come in here. Yeah, we got a lot of equipment. We will help people. It's a passion for me. I'm just flat out saying my perspective on what I've seen over the years. I've helped a lot of people that are obese, and it is a really, really rough and tough situation. And it seems like it's getting worse in this country. It seems like it's getting worse. It doesn't really appear that it's like we're not getting to a point where it's getting better. I think people are waiting for more and more pharmaceuticals to come out, and there are things that are coming out that are helpful, but man, people got to take action. People got to start to move more, and they do have to. We're being ruled by these giant food corporations. We're being ruled by Coke and Pepsi, and these are not conspiracy theories. This is the truth. Like, there's 7 or 8 main food companies. They're up all our asses. They got all of our money. We're all guilty because we buy Coke Zero and whatever else.
Sprite Zero, yeah.
We keep helping to fund these corporations, and then we're in this perpetual loop of we rely on them to provide us with food, and we rely on the pharmaceutical companies to maybe clean up the mess after we have issues, and then we complain about it, and we just keep doing it over and over again. But like, I think Kanye West said it on Rogan. He's like, we are them. You know, when he keeps saying them, they're doing this, they're doing that. That's us. Shit. We need to make a stronger stance and try to work against it.
Yeah. Power Project family, how's it going? Now, we love these fucking legendary tasty pastries, and you already know how good they are, but I want a hot tip for you. I want to give you a hot tip. Number 1.
Hot heat.
When you eat these things, 20 grams of protein, 5 grams of net carbs, put it in the microwave for 15 seconds. All right, we talked about how it can fit any single diet because it's high protein, very low carb. But if you put it in the microwave for 15 seconds, my fucking God, it will melt in your mouth. I highly suggest you could do this with any flavor, but if you can get your hands on the hot fudge sundae, oh, baby, Andrew, you're the one who put me on this shit, man.
Yes, seriously, you guys have to try this, but please do not microwave it for more than 15 seconds because the inside turns nuclear. But to me, this tastes like an old school chocolate donut. For some reason, when you microwave it, it completely changes the flavor and it changes it for the better. But you guys got to head over to eatlegendary.com and at checkout, enter promo code POWERPROJECT to save 20% off your entire order. Again, that's at eatlegendary.com. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes. Let's get back to this podcast. But at least I don't know, I feel like every time I go to the grocery store though, all the root beer zeros are gone, all the Sprite zeros are gone, and then like all the full sugar ones they're jam packed. So I don't know if it's a supply demand thing, like, or like inventory type thing, but I don't know. It seems like there is at least more awareness these days, though.
Yeah, that's a nice shift. That's a good start.
Yeah,
I mean, siphon out their, siphon off the money they make off the products that have sugar, and siphon off the money that comes in from, you know, all the fucking potato chips and all the other things that are in the grocery store. It would be hard, but just imagine if everybody, I mean, we don't want everybody to be the same, but imagine if everyone turned into Paul Saladino tomorrow. How long would the food industry have to, like how long would they last? Like they would be in a fucking huge panic. They would be losing billions of dollars. It'd be harder to find fruit. Might be harder to find meat. We might have to try to beat up Paul to get the good stuff.
Yeah.
But it would send everything into a huge tailspin. And I think it's part of the reason why Coke is touting Coke Zero as being the best, because I think they see it as a huge opportunity to pump that out. They're like, we can get this out and we can be in front of everybody, even though they've had it out for a little bit.
Yeah.
We're going to say this is the best Coke ever. This is our flagship product now. Regular Coke's going to take a back seat. And they already know, like 10 years from now, people are going to go nuts about sucralose. So we're going to bring the sugar one back, and it's going to have a little less sugar. We're going to reformulate it. It's going to taste about the same and have 25% less sugar. And boom, we're going to sell the fuck out of that too.
Yeah. The natural sugar push, because it's healthier, will come eventually.
Right.
Finish out this video?
Yeah, let's keep playing it.
For relationships with food and disordered eating.
Instead of focusing on good and bad choices, try to approach food with neutrality in mind.
The only foods that are bad for you are foods that contain allergens.
I think that can be a fairly healthy thing, is to approach food with some neutrality. And they go on a little bit, I think, about saying like earning, you know, certain things. That can get to be a weird spot. But if you have Ben and Jerry's, what would you like if you had Ben and Jerry's tonight? What would be your protocol the next day? Or would you not think about it at all and just down to Ben and Jerry's?
Yeah, I had Ben and Jerry's last night.
There you go.
I had Ben and Jerry's last night, but the thing is like I'm very
You're
aware.
onto some new shit, right? What's the one here?
What you
The
got?
Whiskey Biz?
Oh yeah.
Still on it. I was on Gimme S'more and Whiskey Biz. But I'm on Whiskey Biz still. It's pretty good. Y'all should try it, but don't go too crazy.
It's not necessarily a bad food.
but like I'm aware about how much food I eat each day, right? So it's like if I do have that, I mean, this isn't like I'm earning it, but if I did a lot of exercise that day and I ate some meat, I got my protein in, and I'm like, still a little bit hungry, I'll have the Ben and Jerry's without guilt, literally no guilt. This is the thing, though, that I think should be careful with the way she's talking about this. She says, approach food with neutrality in mind. I think what you should try to do is try to approach food with an equanimity of your mood. I am very aware that the Ben & Jerry's that I eat is not nutritionally a solid food, and I know it's not as good as everything else I do eat. I know that. So I don't think that these foods are the same. These doesn't have the same micronutrient profile as healthy food, doesn't have all of the other benefits that these other foods have, right? But I'm still going to approach it without feeling guilty. Neutral. I'm going to approach it with equanimity, right? But I'm very aware it's not the same. That's how we should be approaching this shit. We shouldn't be saying, oh yeah, that Doritos is the same thing as that apple, right? Even if sometimes the macros are the same, it is not the same. So that's rough. And you mentioned something earlier, how this can be harder for people who are heavier.
This can be really hard for people that are heavier. They just don't have the ability to maybe flow with things because they maybe haven't built in the strategies just yet. And even if they have a little bit of strategy, it's just hard because it's all or nothing. How many people have we helped over the years, and how many people have we seen where they're like, yeah, I was on, I was doing good and then I went off, and like, we're thinking, man, like, God, it's so depressing. Like, there is no off. There's no off the diet. You're on the diet. You chose to eat something slightly off plan. You chose to eat something that you had a craving towards, which is great because now hopefully you got the craving out of you. Now it's time to just recalibrate and get right back on that plan again. Because remember, the plan is what's working. It's how you lost 10 pounds. It's how you lost 20 pounds. So we need you to continue on the plan. You're never without a plan. You need a plan. In today's world, I think you need some sort of dietary strategy leaving your house because there's so much convenient food all over the place. So you need to know when you're going to eat. You need to know where you're going to eat from. I mean, these are just simple things I've been talking about for a really long time. I don't know if I didn't know. I have my freezer like full of particular meat that I can like defrost at any time. I realize not everyone has like same setup, but I have an idea of where my food's going to come from later in the day.
Yeah.
And I do my best to stay out in front of that and stay prepared. And it was harder when I didn't have money. Like there were more considerations that I had to have. But I always knew when I was going to eat and I always knew where I was going to eat. And we hear people make a lot of excuses. They're like, wow, my schedule's really weird, so I'm not sure when I'm going to eat. And it's like, well, you're probably home twice a day. You probably wake up in a house or apartment every day, and you probably come back to that spot at night. So there's 2 times a day that you should be able to cook something up, eggs, meat, eat some fruit, whatever the hell your diet is even, right? Mm-hmm. Those should be 2 areas where you should be able to get in something nutritious. But a lot of people that are heavier, that are inexperienced with their diet, they haven't really navigated it successfully yet. They can't be wishy-washy. It has to be they need like black and white rules. Like I'm doing this all the way until this date. And then on this day, I get to have a cheat meal. And then as soon as that cheat meal's over, the next day I have, this meal. And it has to be super specific. And it sucks, but how else do you get yourself out of it unless you start to develop like a routine and some habits?
That's the big thing. It takes time for those habits to set in, because for a lot of people, whether you're overweight or not, like some people who are kind of in shape have this issue too. How do you respond to stress? Do you have good things that you can use to respond to that stress? Do you respond to it physically? Do you get your body moving? Do you go take a walk? Do you go do something physically? Or do you grab something that feels good that you can eat to self-soothe? And a lot of people are sometimes stuck within the cycle of, shitty day or rough day. Self-soothe with food. That is a habit that needs to be broken. And that habit can't be easily broken if you look at food in very neutral ways. If you're trying to make this change, but, the Doritos is the same as the apple, right? For a period of time, it has to just be the fucking apple.
People think today was a long day. I'm just going to order pizza. And that's not approaching food in a neutral position. Because people are emotionally eating.
Yeah. Today
was long. Today was hard. Today was stressful. All the days are the same length. They're always 24 hours. There's no surprises. The week isn't any longer. They're always 7. I don't know why it's that way, but it just is mathematically.
Yeah.
No one's lengthening the weeks or the days. Might feel that way occasionally. But just imagine, I would like for people listening right now to imagine what their life would look like when they have a negative interpretation of a particular stressor that comes in. Remember, negative emotions only come from one place, a negative interpretation. Let's say that you were like, there's no other way I can fucking interpret that, you asshole. It was fucking negative. Okay, fine. Something negative came your way. You felt overly stressed about it. It didn't sit well with you.
Yeah.
Imagine what it would feel like to at least occasionally not ring the alarm that you're fucking stressed and that this is an emergency. Quit being a fucking baby. Quit being a fucking bitch. Go for a run. Go punch a heavy bag. Go lift some weights.
Go for a walk.
Go for a walk. Go for a hike. Invite somebody to go on a walk with you. Take your dog for a walk. Pour your energy into somebody else. See if somebody else will go for a walk with you. Go visit your fucking grandma or something. Go visit your mom. I don't know. Imagine what it would feel like if just 3 times in a week, when you felt that same stress, you feel the heart flutter, you get a little frustrated, you get a little mad or a little sad or a little depressed. Just try it 3 times in 1 week to do the opposite of what you would normally do, which might be to eat something that would normally kind of take you to another spot that would allow you to feel a little bit better in the moment, but causes like more long-term damage. Because then the next day, how are you going to mitigate stress? You're not going to be able to as well because your body is fatigued. Fatigue makes cowards of us all. Over a period of time, you're going to keep wearing down and wearing down and wearing down. Then every little thing that happens, you get desensitized to a point where every little thing that happens is heightened. It's through the roof. You overreact to just about everything. You can build yourself into somebody like a Jocko Willink, a motherfucker that's like been to war before. He knows what to do in a lot of different situations that most other people would just not be okay with, because he's built these skill sets over like a long period of time.
You guys want to keep going?
Keep it going.
Yep.
Pause this video real quick, though.
And
I thought you were fucking with me.
You got some fucking heat today, Mark.
Yeah. Yeah.
This subject is really like close to my heart. Like I get fired up about this kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, James Smith sent me some stuff from a guy a while back. It was like this cholesterol thing, and he sent it to me like super early in the morning, and I just came back with like all this different stuff, and I kept leaving him these messages. He's like,
"Is this English James Smith or the coach James
thinker.
Smith?
The thinker? Yeah,
Okay,
the thinker.
okay.
He was like, wow. He's like, I found your. He's like, I found the
button.
thing that gets you fired up.
He touched that.
I'd love to see people make changes, and maybe by like yelling and getting mad about it, maybe I'm going about it the wrong way. But I would love to see people start to head in a different direction.
I mean, you said you're like yelling and stuff, but like the guy that does yell, Greg Doucette, like, he'll just be like, it's calories in, calories out. I would like some insight on this, because so like last night I kind of had like a bit of a cheat, or whatever you want to call it. And I mean, I wouldn't call it
Andrew.
that, but I had something I haven't had in a long time.
I'm waiting to see what he's going to say.
I think you brought up.
He's like, I ate fat-free cheese.
I actually haven't had fat-free cheese in a long time.
Thank you.
But I just haven't had cheese in a long time, so there's also that. But
okay.
I think you were talking about like having Catalina Crunch inside like your yogurt or something.
That wasn't me.
Really wasn't you? Okay,
That
fuck,
wasn't
somebody
me.
was then. But anyway,
I don't know who it was.
somebody talked about it, and I was like, dude, I want to try that. And
sounds
so like
good.
I picked up the bag.
Probably Russell, I think.
I picked up. It was like a small bag, right? That's like the fucking whole thing. And I'm like, man, this is probably really good. And I was like, I better be careful, because it was late. I had to go pick up, my son eats a fuck ton of bananas right now. So we were out, so he's going to be fucked in the morning. So it's like, okay, we got to go get some bananas right now. So I ended up going by myself because it was raining. So I'm just like, cruising down the aisle, and I just look over, I see it, and I'm like, oh, this is probably going to be too good. And I look, and I'm like, well, per serving, it's only 110 calories, and there's only 7 servings inside this whole bag. Yeah. It's like, so if I ate the whole bag, we're talking like under 800 calories. Like, I think I'm gonna get this, it'll be fine. I didn't finish the whole bag because I couldn't, but we've had conversations in the past where I was just like, yeah, Mark, it's calories in, calories out. Why can't like everybody just track? Like, it seems like to make so much sense, but you're like, well, once you're on the other side of it, or you make that turn, you can, but not everybody can. Why not?
Why can't everybody track?
Yeah.
Basically. Well, I just think that
Nsima was just good.
I think that people need to be healthy first before they start to really lose weight and have it be like a permanent thing. So by healthy, I mean like you need to have healthy habits and things of that nature. You can lose weight. Like you'll hear people all the time lose 5, 10, 15, 20 pounds, but to have sustained long-term body weight loss, you need to first make yourself healthy, and you could get there by tracking your calories. You certainly could. You could get there by tracking your calories and exercising, and maybe tracking your calories. Maybe that would be something that would push somebody into a state of being on track more and planning and calculating. There's some people that love spreadsheets and love getting way into it, and they love the metrics, and they love looking at their watch and getting into the analytics and learning about how many calories they need every day. I personally just think that it can, for a lot of people, it's just a little time consuming and can be frustrating, because I think that your calories are a little bit of a moving target. You could find them, and you could find what is necessary for you to lose weight. But sometimes it's frustrating. You're like, I'm eating these amount of calories and I'm still not really losing. What you'll see happen to a lot of people is then they'll start to pick the calories down lower and lower. And that, I just haven't seen that be super effective, because there's other ways that I would go about doing it if it's somebody that's just starting their journey and they don't have a lot of experience. I'd like to see people make good food choices, and I'd like to see people focus a little bit more on figuring out ways to get some energy out rather than worrying too much about the energy in. I think over time, if you learn to leverage protein, just eat more and more protein. So you take your protein from, maybe you're at 10, 15% protein nowadays. If you can ramp that up 5% over time, maybe every couple of weeks until you get to 20 or 30%, I believe that if your energy output is good because you're taking in nutritious foods and you made good food choices, your energy output will be easier rather than harder. When you take calories away, when you're like, this calculator says I'm on a 2,700 calorie a day diet and I'm going to go to 22, you just took an energy source away, and you're not really that comfortable with eating less in the first place because you're a larger person. You're used to eating a little bit more than that. And now you have this calorie reduction that you like. That calorie reduction could be 1,000 calories less every day than what you previously ate. You may not even have like information on what you used to eat. So in my opinion, that for some people sometimes can be a mistake. I would like to see, again, for a majority of people, to start with food choices. And the food choices are basically eggs, meat, fruit. Some vegetables can be thrown in there. Some dairy can be thrown in there. Work on the food choices for about 2 weeks. Work on developing some sort of energy output in walking, cycling, lifting. Lifting 2-3 days a week, I think, is really beneficial. Muscle gain, bone density, your glucose, your insulin levels, and so forth. And just having more muscle mass will make the whole process easier in the long run. So 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, you'll have more muscle. The whole process will be easier. The calories in, calories out thing will be easier for you, even if you're not really like lifting like a beast. So that's where I think most people should. That's how I think most people should start.
Yeah.
Tracking's not a horrible idea because it could give you some reference points of like where you're at and kind of just like what your nutrition looks like. And most of the time, if you're going to weigh stuff, you're not going to usually weigh a pint of Ben and Jerry's. So you're going to weigh things that are probably more valuable than that.
Ready?
Yep.
Or food that is spoiled or is otherwise inedible.
Eat without guilt, regardless of what society says.
Eat without guilt, regardless of what society says. This is literally a corporate op in order to normalize like eating junk.
Social justice.
He's real, but I love how he sees kind of triggered. Yeah, I love how passionate he gets.
Because he brings up right here that she like that's like her job description.
No, we should pull up the job description part. Right. If we could just get to that part where
it's right here.
More Oreos.
The crazy thing, Crystal, throw this next one up there on the screen, which is that part of her job description is, quote, innovation opportunities and driving the scientific evidence strategy to promote brands and support the business. As in, to use her, quote, Black nutritionist label to try and normalize amongst this growing movement the idea that there's no such thing as good and bad food.
And here's the thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
He is fired up.
Yeah, I love it because he's had to change himself. Like he's had to go through shit to get to how fit he is now. So this is a guy that knows firsthand how damaging the things that they're saying is. But one thing that this woman said, it was about the diet culture. Like she's saying how like diet culture is totally negative, and there's a big movement against diet culture right now on different social media platforms. There's a side of it where they're kind of right. If you look at the way old school marketing and even still people talk about dieting, etc., everything is with the way we talk about things. We talk about things that you need habits and you need time because you're going to mess up and you're not going to. This isn't some 12-week challenge. This isn't some 16-week challenge. You need time to be able to make these changes, and that's okay. But within typical diet culture, it's massive amounts of caloric restriction where food doesn't seem pleasurable, right? So you're eating healthy food. And when people think about healthy food, most of the population, not people who listen, because if you listen to the podcast, you know we're eating meat, we're eating eggs, we're eating good food. But most of the population is thinking salads, restrictive food, feeling hungry all the time. That's what they think, right? And doing it in a short amount of time. That's why so many people yo-yo diet, because they don't give themselves the time to build the habits. They don't give themselves the time to actually have these things implemented and make it part of their lifestyle. So I get how she's talking about those negative aspects of diet culture, but overall, diet culture is necessary. It needs to change where people understand that this isn't just some short thing that you're going to do for a short amount of time. Like, you're changing your lifestyle, right? People talk about dieting. Well, if people look at the way we eat, they'll think we're dieting, but that's just the way we live life, because we know that there are certain ways that we want to eat to be able to maintain our health, our physique, and our longevity. And that's important.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous that we have to have a diet culture, but we went so far the other direction that somebody needs to tell the story of how we used to eat. You think about how funny that is, right? It's like, it's kind of comical. Mm-hmm. Hey, this is the way that humans kind of live.
DoorDash wasn't always a thing? Couldn't always just get food delivered to your door?
To your cave. Yeah. Dial it up, gets delivered right in front of your cave. Yeah, it's quite obvious that we should at least restrict and pull back from some of these Franken foods that are out there, these foods that are more modern, that we designed and now are specifically designed by multi-billion-dollar companies and industries for us to consume, which is part of American culture. I mean, Coca-Cola and some of these companies they're not the devil, they're not demons. They are part of America. They're part of the American dream. All of these companies have been started by a person. Mm-hmm. They weren't started by like a machine. They were started by a person that understood the country that we live in and the freedoms that we have and the ability that we have. And part of what we get with the freedom that we have is the freedom for people to be various weights. You don't see the same fluctuation in other countries where they're not free, where they don't have that much access to food. We have so much access to food. We need to say, let's go back to the things that our ancestors had access to. Mm-hmm. That should make things a little easier for you. And those things are meat and eggs. And like the greatest thing that our society has ever done, one of the greatest things our society has ever done is adapted to being able to eat ruminant animals, to be able to eat cows. Like, cows are, from my understanding, are like, I could be getting some of this wrong, but they're like somewhat man-made. Before that we had like buffalo and things like that. And somebody would have to get somebody smarter than me to talk about that a little bit further. But it just gives us so much access to nutritious foods that, and I know there's people that talk about the climate and all the different things like that. And there's just still so much more to look into and investigate when it comes to all that stuff. But it is a nutritious source of food that is not unlimited, but we have done a good job of creating a lot of it for most people, and a lot of people have access to it. So it's a great thing that we have access to meat. Unfortunately, we even adulterated that and we put it in McDonald's form. And we've done so many things to the great foods that we have. We have potatoes, we turned them into French fries. We just need to take a step back. You don't really need a diet necessarily, although I guess you kind of do, because it's restrictive towards the way that you used to eat. But all it really is the way that humans are supposed to eat. So it's a funny thing, because it's not really necessarily that you're on some sort of real restrictive plan, but you're like, humans had access to meat. They would kill like an animal. They had access to fruit, probably had access to some sort of vegetables, although it's plants are can be harder to figure out on like which ones to eat, but we learned how to like harvest them and grow them and have gardens and things like that. So these are things that we evolved to be able to figure out how to grow and how to make for ourselves. The things that we can make for ourselves that grow from this earth are the things that are meant for us. Mm. You know, a Snickers bar and some of these other things, these things, they have to be limited. And for some people, they need to be reined way back to where they don't touch another one for a long time.
Question. When's the last time you ate something that one would deem junk food? What was it that comes to mind?
When I came back from Ireland, we were at the airport and I was just like, you know what? It's been a long time since I had like a peanut butter cup or something like that. So I bought a couple of them right there. And I was like, tomorrow will be a nice fresh start because I knew I was going to kind of sleep in and stuff like that. So that was like 2 months ago. And probably before that, it was probably like 6 or 8 months before that.
Did you feel guilty?
No, felt great.
Now, she mentioned this thing at the very end of the video, eat without guilt. And it's a very pretty sounding thing. Like, yeah, eat without guilt. But these food, like, number one, if you're in a situation where your health is slowly deteriorating and you're eating quite a bit of peanut butter cups or you're eating a lot of processed foods and you're not getting healthier, but your health is deteriorating, you should feel guilty. Sadly, you should feel guilty. Because you're not being reasonable.
Will, yeah.
You probably will. And it's necessary because that feeling of guilt you're understanding that consuming this in this volume is putting me in a worse situation.
There's a part of your body or somewhere in your brain that recognizes what you're doing is not logical. Therefore, you kind of feel bad about it.
When I was in my early 20s and I was just eating a lot of just junk food, I felt guilty because I knew this isn't good for me. Straight up, just eating this in this volume is not good for me, so I felt guilty. Now, the side of things where what she's saying is right is like kids, when you're teaching kids about food, you shouldn't tell a little girl, if you have a Snickers bar, you'll get fat, because that causes a lot of issues. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about if you're not being reasonable, you should feel guilty. So that whole eat without guilt thing, I get it. It's pretty, it's nice, and it's a nice sentiment. But when we're talking about reality and people going through life and people having all these different things that triggers them and makes them stress, family, etc., and food is always the answer because it's readily available and it's easy to overconsume, we probably need that feeling of guilt to help push you in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're like, fuck, I did the wrong thing again, and you're going to feel bad about it. And then once it's done, though, you got to figure out a way, how do I get back on track again? Because getting back on track is going to be the only thing that is going to assist you with becoming successful at this at some point. And if let's say that you're 2 years into like dieting, like you've been dieting for a long time, you've been working on it for a long time, and you have hiccups every few months, you sabotage yourself. You feel that you should have lost more weight than you have. You lost maybe 20 pounds so far, and you've been doing this for 2 years. Previously, you weren't dieting at all. You weren't paying attention to it at all. So who the fuck cares how long this process takes you to learn? You have to learn it.
Yeah.
Mark Sisson, like one of his books, it says, eat. Actually, it's the slogan of like Primal Kitchen. I think it says, eat as if your life depends on it, because it does. It does, man. Like we need better practices. You don't have to be 60 years old and on all kinds of different medication. You don't have to have it so that your blood pressure's high and so that your blood sugar's high and that you have to rely on this heart medication. Man, there are genetic conditions where sometimes people have to rely on pharmaceuticals and they have to rely on surgeries and stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people that have continually made poor choices and they have to live on these particular pharmaceuticals. And if they don't have them, something catastrophic can happen. You can take more control of that. Your diet can, at the very least, help. It may not be the thing that saves you forever, but it can assist. It can help. It can most likely enhance your life from what it is right now.
So then is it Is it as simple as just saying like it's a knowledge thing? It's an educational thing where just people are uneducated on like, cause you're saying like, right. Don't feel guilt or whatever, but like you should understand that you can't have the fucking Ben and Jerry's every night because you had a stressful day.
Mm-hmm. No, I said you should feel guilt.
Oh, sorry. You should feel guilt.
Yeah. No,
but either way, it's still.
What she's saying, it's pretty. But what I'm saying is like, you know, when you're not, everybody knows when they're not being reasonable, right? And when you're like, if we all had goals and one of us was just like not doing the shit that they needed to do for all of us to reach our goals, I would hope that we felt guilty, right? Because you know what you're doing. You know when you're not doing the thing that's you're trying to head towards being healthier. You know that the Ben and Jerry's every single night's not helping you, and you need to feel guilty for that. So it's like, yeah, you need to feel guilt is necessary, but I think what you were mentioning is some people, because I think she was talking about systems of oppression. Is that kind of what you're referencing?
No, because I was just thinking, because like I know people that will have the Ben and Jerry's, but they don't feel guilt at all. They just what they do.
It's a lot.
So that's where I'm like, it's just maybe just a straight up lack of knowledge or lack of education on everything.
There is that, because like
if someone doesn't know Ben and Jerry's is not a good idea, then they're not there yet for help anyway. You know, they probably haven't looked for it yet.
That's the answer I was looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They probably just haven't. And it's not really, that person's just not ready. And maybe they don't need help. Maybe they don't have symptoms. Maybe they're not overweight. Maybe they control themselves enough to where they can have. There's a lot of people that have treats and snacks and all kinds of stuff. And they're pretty healthy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. It's like all the things that you, Mark, and myself are doing is we're talking to people that want to move in that direction.
You're right.
If you don't want to, and if like, let's say that you are obese and you don't want the help, don't take it. This isn't for you. Like none of this is going to help you because it's not what you want. And that's fine. Like you said, we're in a free country. We can make whatever choices we want. But for the person who is really trying to get healthier and trying to move in that direction, which is probably going to be someone who actually listens to this, I'm going to keep it real with you. You can't have the Ben and Jerry's every night. You can't be eating the processed foods all day. It's just not going to work towards you and your goals. And as you're doing that, if you make that mistake, you'll probably feel guilty. And honestly, that's a good thing because you know that you're not doing the thing that's going to help you move in the direction of becoming the healthier person that you're trying to be.
I do agree we need to take a fucking giant sledgehammer to diet culture, though, in a lot of ways, because a lot of stuff is just restrictive. And for some reason, like almost the same thing as like women working out, like that old, like, I don't want to get too bulky kind of thing. Or you hear guys say it sometimes, like, I don't train my legs because they're big enough because I ride my bike here and there. You're like, your legs look horrible. You got fucking dad legs, bro. What are you talking about?
Muscle on a woman.
Muscle on women is fucking great.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
Go for it, ladies. Get yoked.
Do it for you, not for us. Do it for you.
But know that
it's really for us.
We're really okay.
Get jacked. I don't know.
I forgot what we were talking about.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, good.
No, diet culture needs to be smashed and restriction.
Yeah, it needs to be smashed over the head with a giant sledgehammer.
How many people do you talk to that they have been listening to what you talk about, but how many people do you talk to when you tell them about what they can eat? They're like, I can eat that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's been really, really rare for me to have to like, I've had to before, but it's really rare that I've had to kind of give someone a speech and say, I didn't know you were going to eat that much. That's happened a couple times where people were like, they ate like 14 eggs in the morning with like a pound of bacon. And I was like, what? I'm like, that's fucking like, first of all, give me a hug and a high five.
Say, like, did you film it? That's
effort,
good.
Bro. Like,
yeah,
that's work.
That's dope. But it's just going to be kind of hard to lose weight doing that.
Yeah.
But then, but from there, it was like easy to like dial people back because it's like, can we be more reasonable with this? Can we have like 8 eggs and half a pound of bacon?
Yeah.
They're like, really? I get to eat that? And they started losing weight.
It is interesting that the things that people hang on to, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, but I remember telling my uncle, like, dude, like have steak and potatoes for dinner. He's like, oh, potatoes, that's a lot of starch though. And I'm like, okay, but like whatever that even means. I'm like, that's not the problem. Like the problem is going to be that you're going to be drinking that with like a full sugar Pepsi, and then you're going to follow it up with dessert. I'm like, but the thing is like, the starchy, like, I can't do this diet.
My wife doesn't want me to have all that salt and cholesterol from the steak either.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
And you're like, but they're like drinking and they're eating like chips. You're
exactly.
like,
so it's
is that bad for you?
It's really frustrating when you are talking to somebody and all these like super beneficial things about like protein and going low carb and like whatever it is, that diet that you've seen people have success with, and we're attached to the positives, right? Like we see someone like Russell talk about like how he can tackle hunger by loading up on protein. So we stick to those things, but then everybody else is like, oh, protein, I heard it's bad if you get too much of it.
Your kidneys.
There it is. I can remember what it was exactly because I don't attach myself to it. But they'll attach themselves to that as an excuse to not even fucking try.
It's tough though, because like, my mom always used to watch Dr. Oz. And a lot of the stuff that Dr. Oz was saying, and the show The Doctors and some of these channels, like it's the stuff you consume. Because I mean, to be honest, there's an aspect where it's beneficial that he's saying, well, I mean, I heard that starch is this. Then you have to educate him. Like that. Then that's on you. That's your job. That's our job.
Right.
When I hear my mom be like, oh, the salt and the cholesterol. All right, Mom, that's one meal with a bit of salt. Number one, you choose to fast, you choose all this, the salt's not going to kill you. You need that salt, actually. You're not getting as much. So it's literally an education thing, bro.
Yeah. It's just funny. Like, again, this isn't my uncle, but like you could have that conversation with somebody. It's like, oh yeah, it's the starch or whatever, as they crack open a beer.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, hold on, man. Like,
that's your problem.
Yeah, it's like, well, you're kind of fucked regardless if you're going to keep doing that.
Yeah.
On a regular basis, often. Sorry.
Yeah. I remember years ago, like talking to people about like fish oil and different things, and then they would hear it on Oprah or Dr. Oz, and then everyone all of a sudden, like in my family, would be like, "I got fish oil," and you're like, "I told you about this like 5 years ago," but they had to hear it from a particular person, So I think that sometimes when these things pop up, rather than being like frustrated, I do think it's an education like opportunity, and something that has been fairly helpful for me to say. Is to really ask somebody if they really want to make change. Because they'll ask a question, and then I need to kind of see why they're asking the question. Like, hey, isn't that bad for your cholesterol? My follow-up question would be, hey, what do you think you want to do with this information? I have some information that you might like that's going to change maybe some of the ways that you think about cholesterol, but are you looking to improve? And sometimes they'll just be like, sometimes they'll just
take it easy, Mark.
Yeah. Sometimes they'll kind of, you can tell by their body language that they don't really want to know anymore at that point, and that's fine. But most people, a lot of times when you start to think that way and you're kind of asking somebody, I mean, I've told people flat out, well, okay, that's fine. You want to stay the same. That's cool. Like, you're not going to come to my gym. It's fine. No, you're not going to. I did that with one of my wife's friends. I was like, he kept talking about his shoulder hurting, and I was like, I gave you 3 things to do. I told you my gym's free. Like, I don't know what you want me to do from here, And I just told him flat out, I'm like, you're not going to come to the gym. You're just not. And he never did.
You know what's interesting?
That you pulled that off of the shelf behind you?
That was interesting.
That was interesting.
No, I was just thinking.
Piedmontese beef sticks are what's interesting. Wow, there's so much protein.
piedmontese.com.
The amount of protein in this is crazy. I can't believe it. I feel full.
20 grams of protein per stick.
This is unbelievable. I'm getting shredded.
Amazingly digestible. Easy for you.
The sodium's giving me a pump. Andrew, tell them how they can save on Piedmontese beef sticks.
At piedmontese.com. If you're not sure how to spell, that's okay. It's called, it's piedmontese.com. And
if you're not interested in looking at Nsima, go to that website.
That wasn't even the intention here.
Nsimo's eating a beef stick that you can get at piedmontese.com, but they have amazing steaks. And what you guys will notice is actually have like a little bit less fat than your traditional store-bought steaks, but they still taste They taste better than store-bought steaks. So anyways, at checkout, use promo code POWER to save 25% off your entire order. And if your order is $150 or more, you get free 2-day shipping. Links to them down in the description as well as podcast show notes. I swear we weren't planning on doing this, but fuck yeah.
We truly weren't.
And today's flagship sponsor, the Penis Pump.
Yeah! Right there.
Joel Kaplan's male enhancement pumps. Want a bigger dick? Pump it up.
But Nsima, you don't have a problem with that.
You think I don't until I started using Joel Kaplan's penis pump.
Oh, that's why you don't have a problem. It's because of the penis pump.
I used to not be able to pleasure my women until I got Joel Kaplan's penis pump.
I've never. Wow. Keep that behind the table, please.
They look at me and they think he has a big dick. Little do they know, I did not.
You had to work on it.
Had to work on it.
I'm no Frank Thomas, if you know what I'm saying.
What is happening?
I don't know. We're just doing these natural
Christ.
commercials.
So natural, just organic stuff. I love it.
No, dog. But what I was going to mention was Oprah.
Link to the penis pump, though, for reals,
Yeah.
is like one of the first links in the description below.
We know you don't need it. We know that you don't need it.
But it's there.
If you would like it.
Don't do that.
Okay, all right. But what I was thinking about when we were talking about this was even Oprah, people within fitness have referenced her yo-yo dieting. She's wealthy, but even she has struggled with trying to figure this out. And she's got money. She's got access to Dr. Oz and some of the best people. But
education, tons
everyone, even you would anticipate that somebody like her knows, and she does. But it kind of shows how much control food and habits can have over a person. Sorry, let me just.
Yeah, and like she has her own like company, right? That like does like
she has like Weight Watchers and stuff.
Yeah,
and
like fruit prep or some shit like that, I think, right?
Yeah.
So that's wild.
It just kind of does show like how strong, I'm not going to talk about her situation, but somebody who does use food to soothe, how strong that drive can be and how it can be somewhat off-putting to try to say everything's equal, all this food is equal. Well, if it is, and you just continue to self-soothe or go to that type of food, that's just continuously making you not as healthy. It's just... You can't talk about it like that. It's not. That's not facts for somebody who's actually dealing with a problem.
Yeah, and I think parents and adults and people in position to be able to help our youth with decisions on food, you got to be cautious with it. You got to be careful with it. You got to proceed with a lot of caution because they could end up addicted to food. I feel very fortunate, at least at this point in my kids' lives. I don't know if something would change, or sometimes traumatic events happen and people end up relying on food or drugs in other situations. But I'm really lucky that neither one of my kids seem to be addicted to food. They eat pretty normal. They'll eat some fast food here and there. They'll eat some candy. They'll eat some ice cream. But most of the meals that we have are like protein forward. The protein's a priority. There's not any like real great, like this, this is our fucking food that we eat. Like it's not anything crazy. Quinn came home from volleyball practice yesterday and I made a big thing of meat and rice. And I kind of, when I do that, a lot of times make extra. My nephews were over as well. I gave them a couple scoops of it. Quinn came home. She's like looking in the fridge, like she was probably going to make like a worse choice. And I'm like, hey, I cooked up all this meat with some rice. She's like, oh, I love that. Boom. She grabbed a bunch of that. So just trying to have healthier options around. Quinn eats a lot of fruit. Jake likes a lot of fruit as well. They both like sushi, which is usually just like, some fish roll with like, so there's some protein in there. Yes, there's rice in there. And yes, they like the rolls that have the sauces and things like that, but it's just neither one of them's on like a diet. They're not like sucking down protein shakes all day and doing skin calibrations and fasting all day or anything. There's nothing weird going on. It's just this is just the way they eat, and it's normalized in our household. And they both also are aware that you should move around every day.
They probably eat till they're full too, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, especially Jake. Jake does a great job with that. He'll eat and then he's just like
done.
I'm like, are you done? Like, how do you stop eating and not like just completely clear your plate?
Yeah. His reservoirs of all the nutrition he requires are full, so he's good.
Yeah. I'm like, what the fuck?
You're like,
I don't know how to do that.
You're like, dude, you
Yeah,
have
we're too used to
1/8
filling the
left
tank
of your hamburger. Like, what the fuck? Like, just take another bite. Oh, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm done. Shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Too much. Yeah. Now I'm having a hard time with like making sure Jasmine just eats enough right now because like with school schedule and stuff. And like I've told her, I'm like, just be a bad kid, like, or be a bad student, like eat in class and shit. She's like, we're not supposed to. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, just be a bad student then, because like her days are long. And shout out to her, she got
What are school days at like now?
So this is great. So I drop her off a little bit after 8, and then she doesn't get home sometimes till 6 because.
Whoa.
Yeah, no, she auditioned for her first play and she got a role.
Yeah.
And I know. Good job, boo.
Congratulations.
And then she also got the understudy of the co-star of the play.
No.
So as a for
real?
What's whatever 10th grader, freshman,
That's
sophomore,
cool.
sophomore is the understudy of a senior role. So I was just like, you understand, like they're like they see something in you and they're like getting you ready for like the next fucking big spot.
That's cool.
So I'm pretty excited for that. But with that, I'm just like, hey, like we got to make sure you got like more food. Like you got to keep going. And so like sometimes it's like I'm too much because she'll be like, oh yeah, I packed lunch. And I'm like, what'd you pack? And she's like, I'm like, you didn't pack one? And she's like, no. I'm like, well, then why didn't you say that? She's like, because I don't want you to get mad at me for not having food. And I'm like, well, you just need more fuel. Like, so that way you don't get tired and bonk out at the end when you're like rehearsing lines and shit. So yeah.
You know what's funny?
Sneak her some blueberries.
I'm curious.
Bloobs. Yeah, that'd be good.
What was eating in school for you guys like? Because this is funny. My mom used to give me like $5 or $7 for food at school, and sometimes I'd be able to like bring some food from home. But I had this homie of mine, Anthony Vong. And Anthony's dad would always make him like some really good Vietnamese food. It's like just sticky rice with sausage and all this, and it'd be big portions. And I'd just be like, Anthony, hey bro, can I buy that from you? So like his dad, I never told my mom this, but he was just making money for me because I bought my lunch from his dad. And it was just like this fucking Chinese food. It was great.
That's awesome.
That
Sounds really good.
But that was a lot of what I was eating in high school. But what did school look like or food look like for you guys?
Not good.
Yeah, I think I just had regular school lunch. My mom would make me stuff when I was young,
Sloppy Joes and tater tots.
like a sandwich or some shit, and then
Sloppy Joes was good. I don't know if
really good.
you remember Sloppy Joes in high school? That shit
they
was
taste good.
really
Yeah, yeah. I think I just did typical like school lunch. As I got older, I got weird. When I got to be like 17 or so, once I started learning about like bodybuilding and like protein type shit, I would like go to our local deli and get like sliced turkey and cheese and like roll it up and like eat weird stuff like that just because I didn't know what else to do protein wise. Because I couldn't
was taking protein shakes.
Yeah, I couldn't figure it out. Yeah, I would do protein shake here and there, but even back then, it's like it just there weren't like a huge influx of like shaker cups and stuff like that. So like if you did try to shake something up back then, you were in a lot of trouble. You needed a blender for all the different types of protein back then because it would just mix up like way too thick. But yeah.
Quick question. Do you remember the first time you tried to get shredded? I'm just wondering, what did you do? What did you try to employ the first time you ever tried to get shredded?
I think I was like 19 or so. And see, I was pretty fortunate. I had like good people around me, pretty young. And I messed around with a lot of powerlifting stuff when I was young. And then when I turned like 18, 19, I was like, I'm a little fatter than I want to be. I want to try to like lean out a bit. My brother trained with a guy who now lives here in California. He's the guy that I always tell you guys about. He's one of our original mentors. His name is Ron Fedko, and he won an Academy Award. He was a professor at Stanford for mathematics and applied science. He's like crazy smart. And he used to train O'Hearn too. He's just like insanely strong and really smart. And when I tried to like lean out, I didn't know what I was doing. So I just like, I cut out all the fat and I was eating like cereal and like protein and like, but not knowing what I was doing. And he's like, no, you need to kind of like, you need to eat meat. Like you need fat. Otherwise your body's going to like shut down. It's not going to be good. He's like, you're right on with the protein. So you need the protein. He was like, basically just like fruit and meat. is what he was a proponent of even back then, and some rice. And I did that along with doing some sprints here and there. And I was already pretty big, so I got in shape pretty easily.
Yeah. I was just thinking it's funny. Thinking back to the first things you ever tried to get shredded. The first time I tried that shit, I was like 16 or 17. I remember it was junior year. And I remember reading on bodybuilding.com, like counting calories and shit. I was like, let me just eat 1,000 calories a day. So I was drinking protein shakes and eating rice. That's it. Protein shakes and rice. Managed that for like 9 days and I dropped weight. But I remember going to school one day and one of the homies was like, dog, you good? You look kind of tired, bro. I'm like, yeah. I almost fainted, dog. And I was like, wait, okay, yeah, this diet this isn't the way you're supposed to diet. This is too hard. So,
what if you just added peanut butter though? Like just
added peanut butter.
A little bit of peanut
he'd
butter.
eat the whole thing.
But that's what I'm saying. But
that probably would help. I didn't have the education.
Let's say 1,500 calories a day with the rest just being so rice, peanut butter, and protein shakes.
Could have worked. Yeah, it could have worked because I was just it was pure carbs and protein.
That's so good.
Rice and whey.
What I also did was 1 meal a day because there was the guy put out a fucking book about it, Warrior Diet.
Oh, yeah.
Like a long ass time ago. And I remember trying some of that. And
fasting was a big part of that,
yeah? Yeah, you just eat like as much as you want. But like I was too fat to like figure it out. I ate way too much shit.
Yeah, so this is this thing. Like we've all done stupid shit. So don't.
Yeah, I was still messing around with the high protein, low fat diet just like a year ago. Yeah. So yeah, not that that's bad, but I'm just saying like we've all explored.
I did an inch on the arms in one day workout before too.
Oh, you got to talk about that a little bit though. Like, 'cause that shit's the volume you did.
It's crazy. We'll talk about it on another show.
Yeah,
that sounds
Andrew,
good.
take us on out of here.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for checking out today's episode. We got deep again, so please drop us some comments down below. Let us know what you guys think about today's conversation. And hit that like button on the way out. And please subscribe if you guys are not subscribed already. We sincerely appreciate that. Follow the podcast at MB Powerproject on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. My Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z. And if you see Nsima's over there around a penis pump box thingy.
Excuse me.
What? Sorry.
Join the Discord. The Discord's popping.
So the link to that, though, is in the description, though. The penis pump and Discord, but penis pump too.
Nsima Inyang on Instagram, YouTube. This was a fun episode. Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter. Mark?
Why were you laughing and making so much noise when I came in today?
Wait, what?
What was going on in the gym?
Oh.
I wasn't in there, so I don't know what happened.
Nah, it was a skit. Oh. It was a skit that Owen and I were doing. It's probably already on the grams now, but yeah, it was just a skit. You heard the screaming and shit? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a skit.
Callie's like, what the hell's going on in there?
Yeah, it sounded like somebody was dying.
I'm like, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm at Mark Smelly Bell. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.